What is up? What is happening? Back again with another edition of the TFA Game Day show. Today, as you've seen, we have no Cody Kutzer because apparently he thinks he can take days off. That was not worked into his contract. We'll talk about that later. But regardless of that, we are back again, ready to get you guys ready for another week of NFL football and get that dub. So one thing I just want to say, I really appreciate all the support we've been getting. As we are on the road to 1K subscribers here on the YouTube channel. So really appreciate all the love we've been getting. And if you're new here, be sure to drop your name or drop your questions in the comments and we will answer them as they come. And today I am joined as always. Well, I shouldn't say as always because he was out last week, but back again with Robbie. This should be interesting because me and Robbie tend to disagree on everything. And so we don't have our normal third person to decide who wins. So we'll see how this goes today. But how you doing today, Robbie?
Good, man. No Cody. I don't expect you to pull any punches, as I know you, and I won't either. But ready to dive into what is going to be a really interesting week. Obviously, we'll jump into it with weather and all the injuries and all the committee backfields, but it's going to be an interesting week.
No, for sure. Another week of just multiple running backs out. No Christian McCaffrey. Thought maybe he was going to get to come back, but he was not. We do not have Aaron Jones. No Miles Sanders. It's just been another ugly week. And it looks like we'll be waiting on news for Chris Carson. Hopefully, if you do own Chris Carson, you were able to pick up. But now, people probably went out and spent waiver priority and fab on Carlos Hyde, and he's out. So it looks like DJ Dallas really could be the guy there. If you're a Chris Carson owner, what are you doing? Are you running out and adding DJ Dallas? Because that's what I would be doing. How are you navigating those waters?
Yeah, man. This is last week and this week were just really tough for me being a Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's on a lot of my rosters, Chris Carson, Aaron Jones. So I've just been just a landslide of injuries for a lot of my teams. So I've been picking up, JaMychal Hasty, Carlos Hyde, Boston Scott have been a lot of these names. And now you talk about, okay, Carlos Hyde is doubtful. Chris Carson's a game time decision. Travis Homer's a game time decision. If you're talking about some of that, hey, you feel semi safe with it, it's probably DJ Dallas because he's had the full week of practice. They've seen him. Even if Chris Carson's a go, I'm assuming they're going to split some type of work. We're talking about Chris Carson coming off of a mid-foot sprain, 7 days ago. So, yeah, I definitely think that DJ Dallas is probably someone that you definitely need to pick him up if you have Chris Carson. But, yeah, talk about that backfield being murky. The 49ers, I just briefly touched on it with JaMychal Hasty. Now, Tevin Coleman activated off the injured reserved. We still have Jerick McKinnon still in the mix here and there, sometimes in the mix, sometimes not. But, yeah, Kev, it's just a really tough week because as much as we can give for analysis, we just don't know who's going to be in and who's going to be out. And there's just all of that's unknown, right? And so you just have to make the best of what you can with it. And with the Seahawks being a later game, I think you need to have that backup. If Chris Carson isn't a go, you need to be able to slide right in and put in DJ Dallas.
Yeah, you have – so not just that, you also have Devonta Freeman's out. So it sounds like Wayne Gallman is going to be the starter on Monday night. But I really want no part of that against the Buccaneers defense. The Buccaneers run defense has been elite this year. You have obviously Boston Scott's going to be the lead back against Dallas, but he's likely gone. You're not going to be able to acquire him on waivers. I think DJ Dallas is probably your best bet to having somebody ready and available in the event that Chris Carson doesn't go. Now, if you have some other options, even if Chris Carson plays, I would probably be a little bit hesitant because coming off a foot sprain, it wouldn't take much for him to re-injure that. I tend to lean that he's not going to play today, and this feels like a coaching decision where they're just leaving it out there. So as coaches tend to play tricks on people and do this kind of stuff. So if he doesn't, and it's a possibility that DJ Dallas could be the literal only back they have because if Homer doesn't play as well, he's the only healthy running back they have at the moment. So DJ Dallas, he's not a super impressive prospect. He was okay coming out. He is somebody that does possess the ability to catch passes out of the backfield. He caught 28 passes this time in Miami. But he never really had a large target share there. The most he ever had was 5% of the targets, in Miami in 2019. But But still, opportunity is opportunity, and if he's probably widely available. I think I checked last night; he was like 1% rostered, so he's widely available out there. So, anyways,
Yeah, and it's tough. Even if you say, let's say Chris Carson's out, DJ Dallas isn't even a home run pick anyways, because let's talk about the matchup against the 49ers. They're number one against running backs. I still don't even love it. So I know a lot of people are in pinches this week because there's just so much up in the air, and you throw in the weather and all that. There's a lot to digest. But Kev, if it's you and you have, let's say, J.K. Dobbins or DJ Dallas or Wayne Gallman, let's just pick those three because they're probably waiver wire guys that you probably picked up. Maybe not Dobbins, but let's say he was on your bench. Of those three names, who would you like the most out of those three?
It'd probably be Dallas, simply for the fact of I think that this passing offense can do enough, and I think he'd be involved more in the passing game. Because if they don't have Travis Homer either, I think he would also be the pass catching back. So he'd probably just have a 3-down role. And so I think it would be really hard to not want to play him over a guy like J.K. Dobbins. I get it, but he's going to have to be somebody that's going to have to break off a long run against this Pittsburgh front. I mean, you talk about how good San Francisco is. San Francisco right now is 10th in adjusted line yards. They're 14th in power rank, 9th in stuff rank, and then 12th in second level. But Pittsburgh is number one almost across every metric among their defensive line. So for me, that's why I think I would probably prefer going DJ Dallas, get down close to the goal line and punch one in, because you don't have to worry about that. Because even with J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards is still going to be involved there. And, it's going to be tilting if you start J.K. Dobbins and then they get to the goal line and, here comes Gus, the bus comes out and punches it into the end zone. So that would be my only concern there.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It's just, there's so many question marks. And then the matchups for a lot of these flex running backs are so bad anyways that you really hope that, you're piecing together with, let's say you had Myles Gaskin earlier, or you were able to get Boston Scott, Darrell Henderson. You're really hoping you have some of those options available this week.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into some of these questions here. From Coop Dog. Welcome back, Coop Dog. Do I start Ayuk or Boston Scott at flex? Do you think Carson will play? Now, we've already discussed that part of it. I don't think Carson plays, but I think these are both two really good matchups here. But I would lean Boston Scott because they are playing Dallas. He's the pass catching back here. I have him right now. Now we have all the news and everything. I have Boston Scott ranked right outside of an RB1. I have him at 13 right now. So it's just it'd be really tough for me to sit him. I do like Brandon Ayuk. We know that, you attack Seattle through the air. This is should be another high scoring affair where both teams are going to be looking to throw. That's why I like Jimmy Garoppolo so much. And right now, I mean, who else do they have? They're out. They don't have Deebo Samuel. So really it's Brandon Ayuk, who will likely also probably get 2 to 3 touches out of the backfield as a runner himself, as they do a lot of that with their wide receivers. Brandon Ayuk was almost like a clone of Deebo Samuel, in my opinion. They're kind of the very same guy. And then you have George Kittle in that offense. So there's not a whole lot of there. So it's kind of a concentrated target share here, and what you can expect. But in this situation, I would go Boston Scott.
Yeah, I like both of these matchups. They're both top 15 at their individual positions for me, with Ayuk and Boston Scott. So we always go back to these guys on, are you able to get 2 of these guys in your lineup because of all the other bad matchups? I like them both. I'll probably lean Boston Scott just on the volume that they'll probably get. He kind of got bailed out last week in a late touchdown against the Giants, but we're talking about the matchup against the Cowboys. I think it'll be much better for him. So I'll lean Scott.
The next one is Justin Jefferson at Green Bay or Justin Fulgham.
Travis
Fulgham. Yeah, I read it. Travis Fulgham. Anyway, again, 2 really good matchups here. Green Bay, I think Adam Thielen probably sees the majority of Jair Alexander in this matchup, which should be good things for Justin Jefferson, should free him up as a pass catcher. But, I mean, Fulgham continues the ball. It will be interesting to see now because Dallas Goedert has returned and is activated and expected to play along with Jalen Reagor. So the love for Travis Fulgham could be a little bit less because they do have more options now than what they typically have had. I mean, it's been really nobody the last couple of weeks, so they've kind of had to trust him. Now, I don't think this is as sexy of a matchup for Fulgham with the return of those guys. I do think you could see a pitch count for somebody like possibly for Jalen Reagor, but he's not like he was dealing with like a leg or a knee or a soft tissue injury. It was something with his hand. So I don't think maybe you have some conditioning questions for him, but other than that, they've said all week that he looked fantastic in practice, but I would lean Justin Jefferson here.
Yeah, that might be our first disagreement of the morning already. I'll go Travis Fulgham. You're right. This is not as great of a matchup. We're talking about Dallas Goedert being activated. We're talking about Jalen Reagor being activated. But I think Fulgham has gained a lot of trust from Carson Wentz. And when you talk about new pieces coming to the offense, I still think that he's going to get a good target share. And then the big reason I'm down on Justin Jefferson this week is we've touched on the weather a little bit, but we haven't really actually dove into it just for the Minnesota Green Bay game. I mean, we're talking about a 36-degree day, but with wind chill, it feels low 20s. They're going to have sustained winds of 25 to 30. And this is something that I really dove into because we just have so many games of how does wind affect your quarterback, your wide receivers, your kicking for the kicker game, right? And if we're talking about winds, sustained winds above 15 miles per hour, that's when your long ball, they're probably not going to take as many deep shots. So with gusts up to 40 miles an hour, that's something that I just think limits Justin Jefferson's upside a little bit because that's where we've seen him kind of make his hay is kind of those deep shots. And he's been all over the field, right? But I'll probably lean Travis Fulgham in this one. He is a top 16 play for me.
So for me, I have Justin Jefferson at our wide receiver 15, and I have Fulgham at wide receiver 20. So not too far off. I still like Fulgham. I just like Justin Jefferson a little bit more. So that's where I said on that one. So, if you want to go Fulgham, I don't hate that either. I think they're both really strong plays. So let's jump over to this one. PPR, Aguilar, Reagor, Justin Jackson, free agents are Renfro, Kendrick Bourne, Jimmy Graham. Opponent is starting Winston Ward. Which would you go here? I'm assuming they just need one.
Yeah, it looks like he needs one. Opponent and starting Carson Wentz and Greg Ward. That's interesting. Aguilar has kind of, jumped up a little bit in recent weeks for Las Vegas. But we talk about these games that are going to be bad. That one's even worse with their weather. On top of their wind with 25 to 30 mile an hour sustained winds in Cleveland. So that's the Raiders at Cleveland and 4 mile per hour gusts. They're also going to have rain in the game. And Aguilar has, instead of being this short guy, he's been their deep target. Along with Ruggs, which is a total change from his previous play that we've seen with the Eagles and before he became a Raider. So I'll probably stay away from that. Reagor is so tough to trust there. Man, I honestly might go Kendrick Bourne just as a free agent option if he's able to drop somebody. I'd probably drop Aguilar. I mean, he's been coming on a little bit, but he's nobody that I'm trying to keep rostered. I'm going to go Kendrick Bourne. You talked about who do they have for the 49ers. Kittle and Ayuk, but I think Bourne is right there in line to get work against a Seattle secondary that's given up the most points to wide receivers, and they probably are going to be without Jamal Adams again. He hasn't practiced all week, so I don't mind a shot with Bourne there.
I don't hate it either. Honestly, if it was me, with all these options that you have here, because this, as you mentioned, the weather in this Cleveland-Oakland game is going to be brutal. It's going to be one of the worst on the entire day. You're looking at 25 to 30 mile an hour winds with gusts up to 45 miles an hour. It's going to be hard to trust here, really anybody in this offense outside of Kareem Hunt and Josh Jacobs on the ground. I think you see a lot of running here on both sides. I don't know if you're going to see a whole hell of a lot of passing, and Aguilar's really been winning deep. So if they're not able to throw the ball deep, then I think you pretty much just cross him off the list. And then it's trusting Jalen Reagor in his first game back. Granted, fantastic matchup against Dallas. He can torch that defense, but so I don't love that necessarily as much. And then Justin Jackson with Josh Kelly, I don't think I could trust it. But this is one of those situations where if you have an option between Bourne, and then I would also ask, is DJ Dallas available? Because if he is, then that I would rather have DJ Dallas, just because you can expect if he's starting and we find out that he's starting in that time slot. Bourne, obviously, it doesn't plays in the same game, where I would rather trust a guy who's going to get 15 to 20 touches versus Kendrick Bourne, who you're basically hoping he scores a touchdown, because San Francisco still wants to run the ball. Kendrick Bourne, I don't think he's going to go out here and see 8, 10 targets, something like that. So if he doesn't find the end zone, I don't think he's really worth it. I get they'll want to play him, but in this situation, if I have somebody like DJ Dallas sitting there, I would assume to grab him.
Yeah, there's definitely a floor with DJ Dallas, especially if Chris Carson's out. If not, you're probably seeing him split some carries. If Travis Homer's also in there, you're probably seeing him get a couple carries. And in that case, I honestly might stick with Bourne. But if DJ Dallas is the only show in town for the running backs, yeah, I think you're right. The floor there, I'm always talking about volume, and I think the volume will be better for DJ Dallas if he's the only running back.
From Walito, the dude. Yes, I would start Dallas Goedert over Noah Fant. I think that's pretty much easy for me. Like, now that Dallas Goedert's back, he is a smash. I think you can look at him as a top 5 tight end option. Zach Ertz is out. Even when Zach Ertz was playing, he was still playing at a tight end 1 level. So with Goedert back, like, yeah, I think he's a top 5 play from here on out as long as he stays healthy. So I would definitely play him over Noah Fant.
Yeah, he's practiced all week. They activated him. I think you're remembering what he did, even with Ertz there. They were splitting the kind of splitting. Honestly, he was dominating Ertz in the target share there. So now he's going to be back in game against the Cowboys. So I would go Goddard as well.
Abraham back riding with us again. My friend dropped Jamal Williams this week, so I picked him up for Darrell Henderson. I hope he didn't drop Darrell Henderson. Good move. I also have Boston Scott because I love Darrell Henderson. I have Darrell Henderson as a top 10 running back this week. So I love Darrell Henderson, and he continues to he's kind of taking over this backfield now. It's between him and Malcolm Brown. Pouring out for Cam Akers. It doesn't sound like he's going to be a thing. He's dead. I mean, he's basically getting like 1 touch, 2 touches a game. It's frustrating for people that probably drafted Cam Akers in the 5th or 6th round of their fantasy drafts. But, I mean, Cam Akers is 100% droppable at this point. I mean, I don't see any reason to hold him other than as a handcuff because for whatever reason, they seem to love Malcolm Brown. Why? They've continued to give this guy opportunity. They have 2 guys they've drafted now high or relatively high for a running back over the last 2 years, and they're just not using him. So, I know he had that rib injury, but he's healthy now, but they're still not playing him. So, for me, yes, I like Jamal Williams. I have Jamal Williams ranked as RB13, so just outside of an RB1. Or no, excuse me, I have him at RB12, excuse me. I have Boston Scott there at 13. So, I would rather have I would rather play Darrell Henderson and Jamal Williams if it was me.
Yeah, I agree. I hope he didn't drop Darrell Henderson. If you're looking long term, Jamal Williams will still have a role once Aaron Jones is back, but he is not going to be that 1A where we know Darrell Henderson. I don't even think you can call Darrell Henderson the 1A. He's just getting such a touch point where he is. They sprinkle in Malcolm Brown. Obviously, I think he had 9 or 10 carries. I think he was 10 for 57 with a touchdown last week. So he's been getting work as well. But it's a Darrell Henderson game, and he's getting spelled for Malcolm Brown. So he is the better long-term play. This week, I had Jamal Williams as a top 10 back this week. I really like him against Minnesota's defense.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that on long term that it's definitely Darrell Henderson. Jamal Williams, I think there's a pretty good possibility Jamal Williams probably ends up starting again this upcoming week because they play on Thursday. So it feels like a pretty quick turnaround for all of a sudden Aaron Jones to be ready. If he wasn't ready, he didn't practice at all this week. So I think you probably look for Green Bay to hold Aaron Jones out for one more week, week 9, and then he returns week 10, where it looks like we're going to pretty much get every running back during the week 10 because we'll have Miles Sanders back that week. You're going to have Nick Chubb likely back that week. You'll have Aaron Jones likely back that week. So, anyways, but yeah, I hope you didn't drop Darrell Henderson, Abraham. So play Chris Carson if he goes. Also, PPR Moss or Gallman.
I mean, it depends on his options. I think Chris Carson, if we've said this over and over, we don't think he'll play. If he does, I think he's splitting with DJ Dallas in a matchup against the number 1 team against running backs. So I'm not trying to look to force Carson into my lineup if there's another option. PPR between Moss and Gallman. Kev, I'll let you answer first. That's.
I would go Moss here and the reason I would go Zach Moss is just because it's a terrible matchup for the Bucks or against the Bucks, I should say, for Wayne Gallman, and I don't think he's really going to be utilized that much as a pass catching back either. They have Deion Lewis for that role, and I think now without Devonta Freeman, it's just really tough tough to trust Wayne Gallman. And I know that Zach Moss is kind of the 1B here. He is not the starter, but he has looked better, at least the last couple of weeks, than Devin Singletary. I like the matchup better against New England. So I think I would lean towards Zach Moss and hope he finds the end zone.
Yeah, I'm not going to push back on that too much. Just that matchup is so tough for Wayne Gallman. I will advocate for Gallman a little bit, though. Once Freeman was out, he got 2/3 of the snaps over Dion Lewis, and he out-targeted Lewis 5-0. So we think of Dion Lewis as the pass-catching back there, and I think probably he is more often than not. But this past game, he absolutely was not. He didn't get a single target, and Gallman got 5. So I think that's something to note.
All right, JB in the YouTube, pick 2, Ezekiel Elliott, Gio, Boston Scott, full PPR. This is for my RB2 and flex spot. This is where we're at, where we're having to decide between Zeke, Gio, and Boston Scott. But it's tough. It's going to be really tough to trust Ezekiel Elliott. He just, they have. If you're Philly, who already has one of the best run defenses in all of football, what are you going to do when they have Ben DiNucci back there as the starting quarterback? If I'm the defensive coordinator, I'm bringing the house all night, and I'm making Ben DiNucci beat me. If that was me, right? So I could see where people would want to sit Ezekiel Elliott, but it's also really tough to sit a guy who's going to probably see 20 touches tonight.
Yeah, I don't think you can sit Zeke. I mean, the Cowboys are going to get back Zach Martin. They're going to get back their center, Joe Looney. So that's two pieces that obviously the line has been decimated at every single position except for left guard. But we're talking about one of the best guards in the entire game, and then their starting center from the beginning of the year. So that's going to help a little bit. You're right. The Eagles front seven, they don't give a lot of points up to the running back position, but Zeke gets involved in the pass game. You're right. He's going to get 20 plus touches. I can't sit Zeke there. And then between Gio and Boston Scott, it's close, but I'll probably go Boston Scott. The Titans aren't a defense I fear, but they're not a defense I'm looking to take advantage of. That game does have a high over under, but I don't know. You can talk to me either way about that. I think I have them separated by 1 or 2 spots here in the rankings, but just Boston Scott against Dallas just sounds a lot better to me.
Yeah, I'm going to go Boston Scott. I just think it's a better matchup for him. So I would go Boston Scott. Yeah, I'm not sitting Zeke as bad as I want to. And like we've kind of talked about this past week, I think Zeke is an excellent buy low right now. I mean, he might be the best buy low. I've seen a lot of trades lately with him, and people are just giving him away, like for whatever they can get rid of him for, and it's insane to me. I think you probably see a bounce back for this offense at least a little bit. They're not this bad of an offense is what we've seen. Sounds like Andy Dalton will be ready to go next week. So, yeah, for me, it's Zeke and Boston Scott. So. All right, Coop Dog with another pick 2, Gio, Boston Scott, Ayuk, and Zeke, assuming Chris Carson will not play. 2 running backs, 1 flex.
Wow, this is really similar to what we just had there. Yeah, I'll stick with Zeke and Boston Scott, as we said before. I think the very first question we had was Boston Scott and Ayuk. We like both of those matchups. I'll lean Scott a little bit. And then this last question is the 3 running backs in it. So I'll stick with Zeke and Boston Scott. But if you're looking at some of those options, it's a lot better than what I'm looking at in my rosters with JaMychal Hasty, DJ Dallas. So yeah, I like all 4 of those guys, but I'll go with Zeke and Boston Scott.
Yeah, because it says pick 2, and then it says 2 running backs, 1 flex. Unless it's supposed to be an RB2 and 1 flex. But if it was 2 running backs, it's Boston Scott and Zeke. And then the flex, I would pick Ayuk if it was me.
Yep.
Corey Volk. Well, what do you think is more likely to happen? Mahomes running up the score against the Jets, or 2, they go up 14-0 and hammer Le'Veon CEH for 2 yards per carry every down?
Oh man, I like this theory question. It's a little mix up from our start sits. I don't think the Chiefs are going to pull their score. They're going to definitely go up and continue to pass. Their pass first team. Now, I do think there is a get Le'Veon in the end zone type of narrative for them against his former team. I would not be surprised at all if he finds the end zone. But yeah, if you're asking which one of these 2, I think they will continue to run the score.
This is tough because we kind of saw this last week with them against Denver. Now, obviously, there's a difference between Denver's defense and the Jets' defense, but the Chiefs lately haven't been throwing the ball as much, especially last week. They really didn't. They just were comfortable with running the football and didn't really push the ball too much. Now, there's a difference between Denver's defense. Denver's defense is worlds better than what the Jets is. The Jets still have been actually pretty good against the run. They've been terrible against the pass, but I think there's a scenario where the Chiefs get up quickly, 28 points in the first half, and then the second half you see them just kind of go on coast mode and just feed the rock, throw it here and there when they need to, and then by the fourth quarter you pull Patrick Mahomes. But I will say this: the Chiefs are one of those teams that have, at least this year, have played down to some of the teams that they've been playing. Where even last week, even as it really was the defense that really won the game for them. I mean, the defense and the special teams kind of did everything. The offense didn't really do a whole lot. So, and it was closer until we got, but the offense of the Broncos just couldn't do anything. So, I could see a scenario where that happens. So that's why I actually have Mahomes a little bit lower. I think I have him as like a QB5 or QB6 this week, just because I feel like with the Jets being a 20-point favorite, I just can't see the Chiefs. The Chiefs aren't going to need to go out there and just throw the ball 40 times today. So I think it lowers his ceiling a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a narrative for that, but also last week we talked about they didn't throw a ton. They didn't need to. They had a kick return for a touchdown, and they had a defensive touchdown. I mean, they only had the ball on offense. I think it was 20 some minutes was their time of possession on offense. So it was extremely low. They didn't need to throw. They didn't really have the time to throw. So yeah, I'm not worried about Patrick Mahomes getting touchdowns against this defense. Even if they go up 28-0, it's probably going to be 3 passing touchdowns, and he'll have his day made in a half. And so I'm not worried about him at all.
Walito, yes, Rashad Penny is still hurt. He had that late season injury last year. I think they talked about him recently, and basically said that he's getting closer to a return, but he's not ready to come back yet. So that's kind of where he's been. So he at this moment he's not back.
Mark Ingram is inactive. That just came across my timeline. We thought he was going to be doubtful, but he's officially out.
Yeah, which is a shame, right? J.K. Dobbins finally gets his time to shine, and they're going up against Pittsburgh of all matchups that he's gonna have to face. So, let's see, Justin T in the YouTube channel, Goddard or Gesicki? For me, it's Goddard.
Yeah, they're close. I think I have him probably 9-10 in the tight end rankings. If this wasn't Goddard's first game back, he's probably a top 6 option for me. There's a little bit of hesitation. They'll probably involve Rodgers a little bit too at the tight end position, which they do run a lot of 2 tight end sets anyways. But I'll go Goddard by a hair.
I agree with that. Anybody gonna start Gus Edwards over who? I can't. I'm not. I mean, if you're desperate, with a lot of teams could be with a lot of these injuries that we've had, if you weren't able to secure some of these guys that, if you weren't able to get Boston Scott, or if you had Chris Carson and or it depends on who the guys are that you maybe have been looking at and they're not playing and you don't have them. I could see a scenario in which maybe you have to play them, but I wouldn't feel great about it because this is just one of the worst matchups you possibly could get as a running back. So I just think there has to be somebody else out there. Like I said, DJ Dallas, I would play him all day over Gus Edwards in the event. Now, of course, the thing that sucks about that is that we're not going to know in time because that game is a noon game, right? The Pittsburgh and Baltimore game.
Yeah, it should be the Sunday night over my Dallas Cowboys and the Eagles. They should have flexed that, but it is what it is. They are a noon game.
Yeah, so I guess you don't really have that luxury of deciding between that. So, no, I wouldn't want to play Gus Edwards unless I absolutely had to. The next one, Mark Ingram. Evan Ingram or Hunter Henry?
Hunter Henry's been getting a lot of targets. He hasn't been doing a ton with them. We talk about Justin Herbert just absolutely setting blistering paces. You hoped a little bit more would be coming from Hunter Henry. That said, I'll probably still go Hunter Henry over Evan Ingram because we talk about who's been disappointing. Evan Ingram has been even more disappointing. That game on Monday night, now we have another day, so weather can change, but that game's also supposed to have some wins. So yeah, I'll probably stick with Hunter Henry.
I agree. I like Hunter Henry more than Evan Ingram. I think it's a little bit better of a matchup. So yeah, it's Hunter Henry for me.
Hey, Abraham, happy story. He got Darrell Henderson back. So good work there, Abraham.
Yeah, that would have been rough. Gio or Clyde Edwards-Helaire half-point PPR from Young Corpse. It's Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yep.
Pick 2, full PPR, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, and DeAndre Swift.
What are your feelings with Mike Evans in that game against James Bradberry? I know 2 shows ago, I don't remember who we were talking about. You talked of James Bradberry as being one of the best playing cornerbacks this year, just on a kind of a rough defense, but he's been playing really well. Probably shadows Mike Evans. Do you think with no Godwin, can Evans still sustain? Or are you kind of fading Evans? What are your thoughts there?
I think this is probably his last. So from a kind of zooming out, you kind of hope Mike Evans goes out and crushes this week, because if he does, I would be looking to trade him as quickly as possible, because now with Antonio Brown is expected to make his debut next Sunday night against the Saints, and Chris Godwin is also expected to be back. They sounded really optimistic that he'll be back next week as well. So this is not good for Mike Evans. Now for this week, I would lean towards Mike Evans, because he's going to see the lion's share of the targets here between him, Scotty Miller, and probably Tyler Johnson. Tyler Johnson working from the slot. So while I do agree that it's not a great matchup for James Bradberry going against him, I do think he is a talented enough wide receiver that he can beat him deep. So I do like him. And then it really comes down to Amari Cooper and DeAndre Swift. I would probably go DeAndre Swift. I just don't know if you can. You cannot trust any Cowboys pass catcher. I don't care. I'm sitting them all. Like I don't want to play Amari. I don't want to play CeeDee Lamb. I don't want to. You damn sure can't play Michael Gallup. I mean, I just think that I don't know what to expect from this dude. And it's on the road. It's in Philly, and so I don't know. Like I think Philly crushes Dallas, and so. I just don't know. I can expect any of these guys to really do that well this week.
Yeah, you didn't even mention Darius Slay. They're probably going up against Amari Cooper. Yeah, it's tough sledding for us Cowboys fans right now. I think Andy Dalton, like you had said earlier, will be back next week. But yeah, it's really tough to play Amari Cooper in this spot. I agree with you. Whenever Godwin has been out, Mike Evans has crushed. Whenever Godwin's been in, Mike Evans has completely disappeared, except for a touchdown on the 1 yard line. I do really like Scotty Miller in this game, honestly. He had a really good game last week. I think he had 9 targets, had a really good game. And I think that's Brady's specialty is, okay, there's a tough matchup here. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna pepper somebody else. I'll make somebody else a star. And so I really like Scotty Miller in this matchup, but I don't think I'm sitting Mike Evans. So with this one, it's probably Mike Evans and DeAndre Swift.
We're agreeing too much. Scary. I will also, I agree with Scotty Miller. I have him as a wide receiver 3 this week, but I think another really interesting guy is Tyler Johnson to roster if you're in a pinch and kind of need that extra guy, because if you go back and look, the last time this happened, he received 6 targets against Chicago, pretty good run. He played 86% of the snaps. And he went 4 for 60 with 10 fantasy points week 5 against Chicago, the last time that Chris Godwin missed. And we were kind of in a similar situation here. So I do think Tyler Johnson is somebody that if you're kind of hurting this week, needing some help, I think Tyler Johnson makes some sense as well.
Yeah, I have him bumped up as well, obviously with Godwin being out. Basically, my thought process was Tom Brady is going to be able to move these targets around. Evans can get his, but also Scotty Miller, who's going to jump next in line in the target share and the snap share, as he's been kind of that third wide receiver. And then you're right behind him is Tyler Johnson, who we've seen flashes before. They had their Thursday night game, week 4 or 5, I believe, where he kind of showed out. So yeah, I definitely like that as a late option if you need something.
Because you remember, this is exactly what happened the last time, where everybody was all over Scotty Miller that week and thought that Scotty Miller was going to go off, and Scotty Miller did nothing. And so it was super tilting. But anyway, so JJ Walsh, do you guys like Ayuk this week? Yeah, we already talked about it. I have him as a top 20 wide receiver play. I don't remember exactly where you said you had him.
Yeah, I have him as wide receiver 14.
Okay.
We talk about the
Yeah.
Debo clone, and he just came off of a game with 6 for 115. There's against now we're going against Seattle. There's nothing not to like about Ayuk this week.
Yeah, I totally agree. Walito, I'm starting the Eagles defense. I would too. Yeah, Ayuk looking good this week. Agreed. PPR need 2 from Michael Hoffman on the YouTube. Carson Edwards, Scotty Miller, Greg Ward. I don't know what to do with Edwards. Bad matchup, but could see a lot of work. So in this situation, because you have Carson, as we just talked about, go look and see if DJ Dallas is available, because this is a good spot that you could probably look to utilize him in the event that Carson does not play. Because you're right, I do not want to play Gus Edwards if I don't have to. And so then I think that leaves Scotty Miller and Greg Ward and Chris Carson. So between the two of them, I would go Scotty Miller and Carson / DJ Dallas is probably the way that I would lean it. But the good news is you're going to be able to, with the options that you have, you're going to be able to make that decision. So if not, if Carson he doesn't play, and if somehow DJ Dallas was gone, I would just roll Scotty Miller and Greg Ward.
Yep, exactly. He technically doesn't have to make the decision. I'm ruling Gus Edwards out. He doesn't have to make this decision until the late afternoon games, figuring out what Carson's availability is. Even if Carson's available, I don't think Greg Ward is the worst play in the world. But yeah, it's Scotty Miller for sure. And then let's see what happens in those late afternoon games.
Would you be wary of Justin Jefferson because of wind this week? I think it's something to take into consideration. If we're talking like DFS, we're talking about something totally different. Like I wouldn't want to game stack this, but we're not. So it's really would depend on who we're talking about. I think any Raiders I would steer away from, because I know a lot of people are going to want to play Nelson Aguilar. Listen, Derek Carr has been atrocious in cold weather games, like atrocious. He's like 2-9. He's got like I think his QB rating is like 47 or something like that in cold weather games. It's going to be a cold, super windy game. Now, in this matchup for Justin Jefferson, I would probably lower expectations just a little bit, but I don't think it's enough that I'm going to be super concerned about, because I also believe in this game, the first half is the concern, but by the second half, the wind's supposed to die down here in this game. So I don't think it's as big of a concern for Justin Jefferson. And so I'm not really changing where I'm at on him.
Let's do a little name game for you, Kev. Justin Jefferson or Deontay Johnson? Who do you like better this week?
Justin Jefferson.
Okay, I have him higher as well. Justin Jefferson or Cooper Kupp? Kupp will be at Miami in beautiful 85-degree weather.
Kupp.
Yeah, of all games, they get Florida at 85 degrees. So I bet they're enjoying that. Yeah, that's I think the level where we have Justin Jefferson. So if weather wasn't concerned, I think he's above it. He's right in that low wide receiver 2 range to kind of give Aiden a range of where we have him.
Yeah. Miles Hayford, Tevin Coleman, Jermichael Hasty, or DJ if Carson doesn't play. If Carson doesn't play, it's DJ Dallas for me. Because my concern with this San Francisco backfield is, one, I don't know how much work they give Tevin Coleman. He's coming off IR. They still have Jerick McKinnon, but apparently Jerick McKinnon has tired legs. I don't know what the fuck that means. That's the first I've ever really heard of that, but that's what they called it, tired legs. At least Kyle Shanahan came out and told us beforehand and not waited until after the game like he did last week to tell us that all of a sudden that Jerick McKinnon may not play. So who knows? Maybe Jerick McKinnon doesn't play that much, and then it's become a split between him and Hasty. But the problem is, I don't think it's really hard to judge which one is going to be the guy, because I mean they could split it 3 different ways. You could end up seeing one of these guys like Hasty or Coleman end up just being the lead back, kind of like Jeff Wilson was last week out of nowhere. It can just go so many different directions. So if Carson doesn't play, I just think it's DJ Dallas. We can pretty much expect and understand what's going to happen here with him. He should still be utilized in the passing game, not maybe to the level of some of these other guys, but I do think it would be DJ Dallas for me.
Yeah, man, I think it's just tough to like DJ Dallas. Even Carson sits, he's going to get the work, but that's a tough matchup. And you look at the other side of the ball, 49ers, it's tough to find a better – you get carries in an offense at the running back position and you're going to get points. It's going to be 49ers offense. So Tevin Coleman coming back, that obviously makes the situation really murky. I think they're probably going to split, with Jerick McKinnon being either non-existent or just a couple carries here or there, maybe a couple targets here or there. But I'll probably go Hasty is the one I trust the most out of all these guys. Like, let's not even act that even if DJ Dallas does get 15 carries, he's going to get more than 35 yards. It's a tough matchup. He's not an elite talent. So I'll probably go Hasty as the person I trust the most out of these three.
Well, the reason I would like DJ Dallas is because of the offense that he's within. So, this isn't a team where you're going to be able to stack the box. Like, all right, we're going to stop DJ Dallas. Like, their main concern is going to be stopping Russell Wilson and his passing attack. We know that they have leaned more on the pass than they have on the run. So I think it does open up running lanes a little bit more for somebody like DJ Dallas. And I think that if he's the only guy, I mean, he's also going to get pass catching work. We know they like to target the running back out of the backfield. So if he's the only guy, Travis Homer's out and all these guys are out, and it's just DJ Dallas. I mean, I just don't see a scenario where I could not play a guy who's going to receive all the work in probably the best offense in all of football right now. I don't know how you could argue against them not being the best offense in all of football. And he may. I think that I would put it at probably at least a 60% chance he finds the end zone within this offense, and so. In that scenario, so yeah, it just would be really tough for me to not play DJ Dallas.
Yeah, I think 60% is high. I mean, I'd have to jump through the 49ers game logs, but being number one against that position, I can't assume that they've been giving up. They've given up 2 on the year. We're talking about under 4 yards per carry. So yeah, I guess just you're banking on a touchdown. Well, first you're banking on Chris Carson and Travis Homer both being out. Let's say that happens. Then you're banking on probably a touchdown, where I just think with that 49ers rush attack, it doesn't matter if they get a touchdown or not. They've been productive week in, week out. They've gotten good yards per carry. I mean, they're averaging as a team probably 5 yards per carry, 6 yards per carry. They've just been dominating no matter who's in the backfield. So
well, let's do this. Let's do this, because this is what I would like to say is this is why when looking at certain things like fantasy points against, that we need context. And here's the context. The 49ers haven't fucking played anybody that has a good running back. They played the Cardinals, who Kenyon Drake's been ass all year. They played the Jets. We don't have to discuss that any further. They played the Giants, who have been awful as a rushing attack. The Eagles would be one. I guess you could say that. I'd have to look to see, what offensive linemen were out and whatever that week. But that was one. The Dolphins. Again, no running back that we're really worried about here, and they got boat raced that game, 43-17. They played the Rams, and then they played the Patriots. Like, we're not talking about a murderous row of running backs that they played and shut down. So I think some of that is a little bit deceiving, and it's not something that I would put as much weight against than I would against other things.
Yeah, let's rank all of those running backs that they faced, and then put DJ Dallas, and I'll have DJ Dallas at the bottom of the list of all those running backs. So I don't think he's. But
offense and situation matter far more to me than who the running back is. We've seen plenty of bad running backs, really excel this year. I mean, is James Robinson an elite running back? I don't know. I love James Robinson. I love James Robinson.
Kev, what is this? He is.
But to sit here and try to trust James Robinson and say that James Robinson's some sort of elite talent, I think is ridiculous.
Oh man.
But I think DJ Dallas would probably be in line for 90% of the touches. And if that's the case, I just can't sit that.
Yeah, I just don't think they're the same offense that we've seen before. Like, even when Chris Carson was the guy, he had some games where he was getting single-digit carries. He and Hyde were splitting, and they were getting 16 total carries. So, let's see what comes out in the late afternoon. If both Homer and Chris Carson are out, sure, you can go DJ Dallas. I think they all have a low floor. And you're hoping for a touchdown. So at the end of the day, I think it's kind of splitting hairs.
Yeah. So JJ Walsh will Hollywood have a boom week. I think it's certainly in the range of possibility. Pittsburgh secondary, especially guys like Steven Nelson, have been torched in that secondary. So I think it's certainly within the range of possibility that this could be a nice boom week for Hollywood.
Yeah, a little bit lower on these deep ball guys. Just with the weather, it's rainy in Baltimore. Again, we have wind as a factor, above 15 miles an hour sustained wind. So that's just a little bit lower. He could have a boom week, absolutely, but probably fading that narrative that he will have a boom week.
Abraham for wide receiver depth. Who should I pick up? DJ Chark, Slayton, John Brown, Corey Davis, or Marquise Brown? It would be really between DJ Chark and Marquise Brown for me, and I think I would probably lean towards Marquise Brown because their schedule opens up pretty nicely. And to be honest with you, Gardner Minshew might not be the starter much longer.
Yeah, that's a real possibility. So, I mean, it'll be Mike Glennon or Jake Luton throwing the ball to DJ Chark. Yeah, that's tough. I probably want to take Marquise just based on that offense. I haven't looked at the schedule, but it sounds like it sounds like their schedule's opening up. But I'll just trust that offense more with the Ravens.
Yeah, and it is almost 2021, and motherfucking Mike Glennon still is in the league. I don't even know how. That dude is so horrible. And I will never forget, I know he's not on the pod or not on the show right now, but Ryan Williams years ago, whenever he was looking to be the starter, I think was in Chicago, right? Was like advocating for Mike Glennon. And I'm like, get all the way the fuck out of here with that, Ryan. But anyway, he's out here to defend himself. Would you rather have Philip Lindsay or Darrell Henderson long term? This is a tough one because I can see myself liking both of them. I think Philip Lindsay's actually probably a better running back than Melvin Gordon is. He's looked like it this year for sure. But right now, I think it would be Darrell Henderson just because of the role that he's getting right now. But I think I would want both of them. I would ask, why can't you have both?
This would be him picking up Darrell Henderson back off of his waiver wire after he dropped him. Yeah, I'm going to go Darrell Henderson here. Philip Lindsay is going to be in a split. Now, I agree that one of my predictions this offseason was that I think Melvin Gordon's going to be a bust because I thought he was going way too high behind an offensive line that was completely redone in a pass. They wanted to pass with Drew Lock and all the weapons that they got. And then they bring in, or Philip Lindsay is still there, obviously. So I'm a Philip Lindsay guy for sure. Now, if he's the guy, he's going to be the 1A to Gordon's 1B, and Gordon still gets a lot of those pass-catching opportunities, where Darrell Henderson is the guy. There's Malcolm Brown mixed in a little bit, but it's a lot more clear-cut in that situation. So I'll go Henderson.
Yeah, I would probably agree. So this is awesome. So the Bengals are going to be without left guard Michael Jordan today, doing an illness. That means all 5 of their starting offensive linemen out today. So,
I only had 3. They lost 2 more since then.
Yeah.
No, and just kind of piggybacking off of that is why I have Burrow outside of my top 12. I think he's actually quarterback 15 for me, and that still might be high. Tough weather game against a middle of the road defense, not a bad defense, not a good defense, and then his entire starting offense is out. And that's maybe another reason going back to the Geo versus Boston Scott. You can lean Boston Scott a little bit for those people who had questions earlier.
Yeah. Mason back in the chat again today. Wentz or Lamar? Crazy as it is, it's Wentz for me.
It is. It's Wentz for me as well. He's been playing a lot better as of late. Found a wide receiver that he can trust in Fulgham. Obviously, the matchup is amazing. And, Lamar's still going to be just fine, I think, even with this kind of weather game and a tough defense because he can rush. And I think if you're talking about Ingram being out, maybe there's some more play calls for him to rush the football and get yards on the ground. So I'm fine with either one of them. They're both top 6 quarterbacks, but definitely Wentz.
Susan in YouTube, fuel, full PPR, Gaskins, Boston Scott, Jefferson, flex. Where are you at with it?
I'll stick Boston Scott there.
I probably will too, but I'm going to be honest. Like I don't mind all 3 of these guys. Like Myles Gaskin. So the Rams have been beat this year on the ground. They are a defense that can be had on the ground. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, right? Because we haven't even talked about Tua, who is starting today for Miami. And I don't know what this offense is going to look like with Tua. It was easier to understand with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I still think it was a damn shame that they benched Ryan Fitzpatrick as well as he was playing, coming off, back-to-back wins. One where they just destroyed the 49ers, 43-17. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, let's just go. Come on, rookie, jump in against. And have you seen their schedule coming up? Oh my goodness, could they have put him in the worst situation moving forward. This is their schedule coming up. So they get the Rams today, the Cardinals, and then the Chargers, the Broncos, the Jets, great easy matchup, the Bengals, okay, and then they get the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Raiders, and Bills to close out the season. Could you get any worse of a schedule? I mean, I'm sure there's a few more teams we could throw in there to make it worse, but my goodness, good luck, Tua.
Yeah, as you know, I am the dynasty guy, and I think that's really exciting for Tua. But yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick was kind of head scratching, and you almost imagine that he was winning too many games. They were like, no, we're not quite with this one and done rebuild. You're winning too many games for us. We want to continue to build up this team. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm definitely fading their pass catchers a little bit. We know Fitzpatrick can chuck it all over the place. You have a lot of good Fitzy this year. We were able to get Parker going, get Gesicki going. We've seen a couple of flashes from Preston Williams. I'm a lot lower on all of those options than I was if Fitzpatrick was the quarterback. And on top of that, Parker will be going up against Jalen Ramsey, who after kind of getting beat by Cooper, I think in week 1 against the Cowboys, he's really turned it on and played really well against wide receivers since then. So I'm down on Devontae Parker.
Yeah. So, anyways, Corey, I hate that. I believe that narrative. I think it's terrible chalk in DFS. I'm not sure. I remember who you're talking about, but I'm having a hard time fading. I hope you're not talking about Rashard Higgins because I went on a little bit of a rant in our last DFS podcast about Rashard Higgins because Rashard Higgins is going to be like chalk this week in DFS, and it's embarrassingly disgusting to me. I know there's probably people going to want to play him as well. I'm surprised we haven't had a Rashard Higgins question yet. But thankfully, because I want absolutely nothing to do with Rashard Higgins. The last couple of years, we've sat here and I've listened to people talk about Rashard Higgins and, the Matt Harmons and other guys like that have talked about him and tried to hype him up. But the guy's never done anything, and he is a terrible athlete. Like, I mean, he is about as bad as I've ever seen of an athlete. And so if I was going to play one Brown wide receiver, not named Jarvis Landry, or one that I wanted long term because Odell Beckham's out for the year, it would be Donovan Peoples-Jones, and that's who I would want. It is not Rashard Higgins, okay? And Rashard Higgins is a weirdo, like a closet weird. Did you see what he said today?
No.
Like something about. Oh man, I have to find it. I just had it up. It is like some weird stuff. I just had it up here. Where is that?
Yeah, Corey was talking about the Chiefs narrative of Mahomes running the score. Are they going to turn to the run? So yeah.
So yeah, here it is. Browns wide receiver Rashard Higgins now replacing injured Odell Beckham told this via Adam Schefter that he feels so close to Baker Mayfield that he feels like his mama gave birth to him. Like, what? You weirdo.
Is that a really weird way to say brother from another mother? Like, that
I guess
like
maybe that's what it is. I don't know. It just seemed really weird. I was like, okay, that's awkward. Anyways, also, should I start Amari Cooper over Ayuk? I would not. I would start Ayuk, Coop.
Yep. Same.
All right. Let's get through some of these. Myles Gaskins or Melvin Gordon?
I'm going to go Gaskin.
I have Melvin Gordon one spot ahead of Myles Gaskin. I have Melvin Gordon at 17, and I have Gaskin at 18.
Yeah, I just don't think Gaskin's going to split with anybody. He's going to get the receiving work. Gordon's with Lindsey expected to play. I don't think we've mentioned that, but Philip Lindsay is expected to play. I think that's going to be a little bit of a split there. Yeah, I think I'll go Myles Gaskin.
Isaiah Andrew, Connor, Juju, or Claypool for flex?
James Conner.
I would too, but I could see myself going Juju. Juju finally, I don't know. Apparently, the key to unlocking Juju is Deontay Johnson, because whenever he seems to be in the game, is all of a sudden whenever Juju just gets a ton of targets. So when he's not, it's just the Chase Claypool show. So I can't play. I'm not playing Claypool. I can't mess with that. With Deontay Johnson back in this matchup, yeah, I ain't getting caught in that one again. So.
Yeah, they're all pretty close in my rankings. Claypool is the farthest down. It's kind of that deep threat option in a windy, rainy game, and then Juju and Deontay. I have Deontay a little bit ahead of Juju, but Connor's going to be the top option for me.
All right, which two receivers do I start? Juju, AJ Green, Corey Davis, and Deontay.
Man, I think it's worth mentioning Big Ben's home road splits here. Going up against Baltimore, at home, he's at 5.5. 5.8 TD percentage rate, and his interception is 2.3. But when he's on the road, his TDs drop down all the way to 4.2%. His interception rate goes up to 2.8%. His quarterback rating drops 10 points. His air yards goes down a full yard per pass. So I'm not loving Big Ben on the road here in a tough matchup. All that said, I think you still need to roll probably Deontay as the one Pittsburgh wide receiver I'll start. But then I'll probably go AJ Green.
I'm going to go Deontay because of the ridiculous target share that he gets, and then I'm going to go AJ Green.
Oh, man. Kev, that is no fun. You're supposed to do the opposite.
Well, I really wouldn't mind playing Juju either, but I'm probably just going to stick with AJ Green and Deontay. Emery, Gio, Gaskin, Allen Robinson, half PPR, which is awesome to see because it looked like we were also going to be without Allen Robinson. Did not look good, and then all of a sudden yesterday they cleared him from the concussion protocol, and he is expected to play. So that is good news for people that had Allen Robinson, which would have been a great week to play Darnell Mooney. But now without that, Mooney is back to being who he is. So if we're only doing one here, it's Allen Robinson. I'm not worried. Now, this is another tough game in terms of weather and stuff like that, but it's not as bad as some of the other ones. So this one is basically it's about winds about 15 miles an hour. It could have some gusts up to 20 to 20. So this is not nearly as bad as some of these other ones. So I think this is and you beat New Orleans on the through the air. You do not beat them on the ground. They are great against the run. They are a pass funnel. So I like A-Rob.
Yeah, half PPR. It's probably close there. I don't love A-Rob in this game, but I think I like him more. The wind doesn't really bother me with A-Rob because I think he's a possession receiver. He's going to do a 5-yard out. He's going to do a hitch route. So I'm not really worried about the wind for A-Rob. Even though New Orleans Saints have been leaky against the pass, it's been because Marshawn Lattimore has been out for 2 or 3 weeks. They've missed Janoris Jenkins for a handful of weeks. I do think they are actually a good pass defense, and with both those guys healthy, Nick Foles at the helm, I'm not loving A-Rob, but if anyone's going to get targets, it's going to be him. So I will go him in this scenario.
I will say this: Marshawn Lattimore has been atrocious this year. I mean, bottom of the barrel, awful. He is allowing an 80% catch rate on when he's targeted. So he has been awful this year. So that's why for me, I'm just not really worried about him. He doesn't really move either. He basically plays on the right side 78% or 79% of the time. He only plays on the left or the slot at 9 and 6% respectively. So even with that, but I'm just not worried about Marshawn Lattimore. He's just been awful this year. Now, can he bounce back? Sure, but he's just been awful so far to start the year. So, anyways.
Yeah, Kev, you brought up Darnell Mooney, and I just had to read this to you because this is what I'm dealing with in one of my leagues. It's a very competitive home league. Normally, home leagues you try and take advantage of, right, because you follow a lot more than everyone else. But everyone's pretty good at playing the waiver wire and had Deebo Samuel get out for the game. Godwin's out. Mostert's out. And then I have buys for Gibson and McLaurin. So I was rotating between Gus Edwards, then nope, don't want Gus Edwards. And I picked up Michael Hasty. Okay, Tevin Coleman's activated now. I pick up Darnell Mooney. Nope, A-Rob's active. So it's just been a whirlwind. I have Jalen Reagor and JaMychal Hasty, and it's the 2 flexes there, and I'm not feeling great about it. But
hey, you sound like me. So I'm again in my home league. I'm in. I have on my bench right now. It's a keeper league too, mind you. But I have Aaron Jones, Miles Sanders, Nick Chubb, Saquon, who I lost for the year, Chris Godwin. All these dudes are. So I'm rolling with actual JaMychal Hasty, and I actually picked up DJ Dallas in the event that last night in the event that he plays. And I was lucky enough to get Allen. I'm also playing Jalen Reagor, who I also had on theirs as well. It's been tough sledding. I also had Devonta Freeman, who I picked up. He's also out. Yep. It's just a mash unit. But I'm just chilling. I'm 5-2 right now in that league. and I'm just waiting to get to week 10 when all my entire roster will be back finally. So
Yep.
Anyway, no one wants to hear about our fantasy team. So last fish in the pond, flex, half PPR, Deontay, John Brown, or Philip Lindsay. It's Deontay for me.
Yep.
Start one tight end from CHB. Start one tight end, Tanyan, Gesicki, or Ebron.
I will go Gesicki there.
I believe I agree.
They're all outside of tight end ones for me. Gesicki's the closest at tight end 13. So don't love any of the options, but Mike Gesicki will be the highest up for me.
Yeah, I have Gesicki as a tight end 1, but at tight end 12.
Yeah.
So I will say this, a couple interesting tight ends, if anybody's needing a tight end this week, if they're available. One is Jared Cook. I love Jared Cook this week. If Jared Cook happens to be out there on your waiver wire, he's somebody that I absolutely love, especially because the Saints are going to be without Manny Sanders, Michael Thomas, and now Marquez Callaway, who was playing a lot of time there. So they're down to Traquan and Deontay, and then now with Jared Cook. So yeah, so I like Jared Cook, and then also Irv Smith is somebody as well. Like his usage has trended up every single week so far, especially over the last few weeks. And so I like Irv Smith quite a bit. He looks like he has overtaken Kyle Rudolph as the tight end 1, at least in terms of the pass catcher and getting opportunities there. So if Irv Smith is available as well, he's another guy that I really like.
Yeah, just to add one more name to that, I like Harrison Bryant with Austin Hooper missing another game. They're playing the Raiders, and we've talked about this game is going to be ugly weather-wise. I think the short passes for Baker to Harrison Bryant. He had 2 touchdowns last week. I like that as a tight end streamer if you're looking for that.
The only thing that's tough about Harrison Bryant is David Njoku. So if you look at it, so basically last week, I think Harrison Bryant played like 78% of the snaps, but he only ran like 14 routes. And then David Njoku played it was just under 50% of the snaps, but he ran 12 routes. So like they're very similar in terms of that. And so that was my only concern, despite the fact that he played so much last week, and it is a great matchup for Harrison Bryant against the Raiders. Raiders have not been very good against tight ends, so I don't hate that either. It's a short-term play, but yeah, I do think that. And then, like I said, Irv Smith I think is also an interesting guy. While we can't trust Shanahan, I 100% agree. Again, A-Rob cleared the concussion protocols. He had top 10 play this week. I think he is, or at least borderline. Sees so many opportunities as a pass catcher, or in terms of targets. Heading into last week, he was number 1 in the league in targets. I think now he's like 3rd or 4th. So he's still love A-Rob, and I like I said, I'm not really all that concerned with this matchup. JJ Walsh, I have Keenan Allen as my wide receiver 1, but I need wide receiver 2. Flex, Kupp, Ayuk, Deontay for wide receiver 2, and Boston Scott or Darrell Henderson or Swift for flex, but I would also assume these other wide receivers would also be available in that as well. So
Ayuk is the name that stands out for sure for that second wide receiver spot. After that, it gets a little bit closer for me. I can see myself going Kupp or Boston Scott. I think I just need to stick with Boston Scott against Dallas. I've been talking about him for most of the show, which means he'll inevitably disappoint, but Kupp's not a bad option, but I will say that Miami's secondary is healthy and playing a lot better. We used to be like start wide receiver against Miami. They've now gotten their secondary healthy, so they're not quite as attackable as they used to be. Still think Kupp can be fine, but I'll probably go Boston Scott.
So the reason, so for me, this is how it would go. It would be Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp has one of the best matchups of the entire weekend tonight or today. Nick Needham, who plays 86% of the snaps in the slot for Miami, has been terrible. He's allowed 80% catch rate. He's also allowed 1.56 yards per route covered. So I like Cooper Kupp a lot. So he has the best matchup between him and Robert Woods. And so I like Cooper Kupp a lot. Cooper Kupp is playing about 60% of the snaps from the slot. So I just think he sees better. He's a better matchup there. And then as for the other option, I would go Darrell Henderson. Like I said, I have Darrell Henderson as a top 10 running back this week. So I don't know. It might come back to bite me. I do like Boston Scott. If you would rather go with him and do the better matchup, I wouldn't hate that either. But I do like Darrell Henderson just a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I can go Cup as well. I think you're basically just ruling out Swift and Deontay Johnson are just a little bit distant for me out of that group. But yeah, the rest of those names pretty interchangeable.
Yeah. Greetings from Germany. Fournette, Jones. I'm assuming that's Deontay. I think it has to be because David Johnson's not playing this week, so it's probably Deontay Johnson, full PPR.
Mm-hmm. And then Jones, or is that a Rojo?
I'm assuming that's Ronald Jones. Yeah.
Yeah. Full PPR. I'm
gonna go Deontay.
Yeah.
It's so tough but I'll say this again. I said it for weeks. I said with Leonard Fournette out, Ronald Jones is the best sell high out there. That once Leonard Fournette comes back, it doesn't matter what people think about Ronald Jones. I know you love Ronald Jones. I know that, but it matters what Bruce Arians thinks. And Bruce Arians is the most frustrating dude ever because it is tough to understand how, because Ronald Jones, as much as I hate Ronald Jones, I had to give him credit that he was actually looking decent as a between the tackles grinder type running back. He was looking explosive. He was playing well. And then Leonard Fournette comes back and just takes all the work and just comes right back. And so I don't think you can really trust Ronald Jones. I mean, unless you're absolutely desperate in this situation, because Leonard Fournette, they said that he's going to be the pass catching running back now, which makes sense. And with that, he's still going to be opportunities on the ground as well. So I don't know if you can. I don't think you can play Ronald Jones, to be honest with you, unless you're just desperate at running back. Which, with all the injuries and stuff like that, you very well could be and need to play him. But I don't know. Like, I don't think I could play him. And then, so for me, it really comes down to Leonard Fournette and Deontay Johnson. And I would just probably lean towards Deontay.
Yeah, for me, it's that tough matchup against the Ravens. I already talked about Big Ben's home away splits. So I'm not excited about Deontay Johnson. So for me, it's actually between Ronald Jones and Fournette, and that's where the struggle comes in, because I think if we're talking full PPR, I want to go Fournette a little bit more, as he's shown to get the receiving work when he's in the game. Now, I think they're both pretty likely to get a touchdown against this Giants rush defense. I think that's a beautiful matchup for them. I think they're going to be ahead in this game, and we're talking about wins again. So this can be a game that they're running late in the game. So I'll probably go Fournette there, Jones second, and Deontay Johnson third for me.
Well, there you have it. Michael Hoffman, no Stephon Gilmore, Josh Allen, top 5 QB. I want to say yes, and probably that he is, but I don't know if this Patriots team can do anything offensively to make them have to throw the ball a ton. So Josh Allen obviously is intriguing because of his pass or his ability to scramble and pick up yards and fantasy points with his legs, and especially in the goal line as well. So I'm not worried about anybody about being able to target now the secondary of New England, but it is a little bit scary with Josh Allen just because of I don't know if they're going to have to really do a whole lot. But then again, I mean, look what I don't think anybody would have thought the Jets were going to keep it close last week with Buffalo either.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to we've talked a lot about weather games, and I want to just maybe separate some of the worst weather games, because we've talked about 5 or 6, 7 games here that have weather. The 2 worst ones that I've seen from my end are ones that are going to have rain and sustained winds above 25 miles per hour. That's Las Vegas at Cleveland and New England at Buffalo. Buffalo's a windy place to begin with, and now you're talking about 25 mile per hour sustained winds with gusts up to 35 40 and rain. So if we're talking about that, Josh Allen's not going to be a top 5 for me. They've kind of slowed down from that crazy pass-happy offense that we've seen early in the first 4 weeks. They also had some easier matchups. I think the one that we really started to believe was when they dominated against the Rams defense. But I will have him as a QB1, but he is probably at a low-end QB1 for me. He is, QB 11.
At pick 2, PPR, Cup, Robert Woods, or Fournette. I hate playing two play wide receivers from the same offense, but I would probably choose Cup and Robert Woods.
Yes, I will as well.
Our moderator here in the chat, Walito, Cup, and Fournette is who he chose. So, New Soul, Gaskins or Melvin Gordon, half PPR.
Gaskins
already had
for
one.
me.
Yeah, and I went Melvin Gordon. Lamar or Josh Allen? I'm going Lamar.
Yep, same.
Full PPR. I don't think that matters for that. But Le'Veon Bell or Corey Davis? I'm going Le'Veon Bell. The Le'Veon Bell narrative this week against the Jets looking just to just ram it right down their throat.
Yeah, I really like that narrative too. I hope it comes true because it's always fun to have the revenge game touchdown, especially when it's so fresh, right? So I will go Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah. Sleepy refresh. Pick 1 PPR. T. Higgins, Justin Jefferson, AJ Green, or Cooper Kupp. I'm going to go Kupp.
Yep.
Mini Jordan, 718. Full PPR. Choose a running back and a flex. Singletary, Swift, Justin Jackson, or Deontay. I'm going to go Swift and Deontay.
You know, Patriots are missing quite a bit from their defense, and we've just got done talking about that game is going to be rainy, icky, disgusting. I do think the Bills will try and run quite a bit, maybe get back to the Bills from last year that we saw. I will go Swift and then Singletary.
I just don't think Singletary's look very good, to be honest with you. I think really, especially the last couple of weeks, at least last week especially, Zach Moss actually looked like the better running back, of all of them.
Neither of them have looked good. I think that offensive line has just played really poorly in terms of run blocking. Their yards before contact is dreadful in the league. So, but I think he'll get a lot of volume there.
Between the lines sports, when CMC comes back, do I cut DeAndre Swift, Chase Edmonds, or AB? AB. Probably for me. I can't cut DeAndre Swift, and I'm not cutting Chase Edmonds. I mean, Chase Edmonds, at least for the next 3 to 4 weeks, is looking like a top 10 running back. So you don't cut that. And then you have Antonio Brown. I would ask, do you have anybody else? Is there any other options? Like, is your bench that stacked that that's what you have to do? Because I don't want to do that. At the very least, I would trade somebody to move. I'm not just cutting those guys without getting nothing in return.
Yeah, I want to see 1 week of AB without Godwin and see what that looks like. And I think that might be a sell high candidate if he has a good week.
Yeah. Go Crazy TV, Tyler Boyd or AJ Brown. This is tough. I like both of them a lot this week.
I'll go AJ Brown.
I would probably lean towards AJ Brown, but I would like to know, is there any way we can get Tyler Boyd into the lineup? Because I think he is interesting as well. Abel, J.K. Dobbins, Gallman, Justin Jackson, Zach Moss, DJ Dallas, start 3.
Yep, this is what my running back core is looking like in that league. We're talking about a lot of split backfields, a lot of guys you can't trust, and with really low floors here. Starting 3 of them. Man, it might be Dobbins, Moss, and Dallas for me, I think. Because when the situation's murky, and I don't think any of these guys have great matchups. I mean, Dobbins facing Pittsburgh, Gallman facing Bucks, Justin Jackson is facing who do the Chargers have? Denver. Zach Moss might have a little bit easier one against the New England Patriots, and Dallas against 49ers. I don't think any of them have good matchups, so then I'll go off of talent. We haven't seen it yet, but I like J.K. Dobbins' talent. I'll probably go Dobbins and then maybe Zach Moss in Dallas.
So I'm gonna go Dobbins and Moss, and then you're in a good situation to make the decision because Gallman doesn't play till Monday night. So if DJ Dallas is, again, if he's gonna be the lead back, then I want DJ Dallas over Wayne Gallman. So, and you're in a good position. I'm crossing Justin Jackson off the list. Oh, I knew it was coming. Finally, we were gonna get one. Noel. Devontae Parker or Rashad Higgins. Drop Rashad Higgins. That's what I'm saying. I can't do it. Devontae Parker for me.
Yep, I talked earlier how I'm downgrading Devontae Parker a little bit. Obviously, rookie quarterback coming in his first start, and it's a tough corner, but I'll still go Devontae Parker.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Rashard Higgins. Listen, I just can't do it. Like, there's been so much hype this week about Rashard Higgins, and this is what happens every year. Like, there is a period of time every year where Rashard Higgins gets hype every single year, and like he's just not going to be a thing. He's not athletic. Yes, he has that, I guess, chemistry or bond with him. But if people are expecting Rashard Higgins to come in and he's all of a sudden just going to be some sort of like league winner, or he's going to be like a wide receiver 3 for people, and he's just not. Like, give me the guy, Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's super athletic. He torched the combine, outproduced what a lot of people thought he was going to do. He looked pretty good in his first start as a rookie. So I think the ceiling is so much higher on Donovan Peoples-Jones than what it is on Rashard Higgins. We know what Rashard Higgins is. And so for me, like, I would drop Rashard Higgins to pick up Donovan Peoples-Jones. You know, like I just don't think Higgins is going to be somebody on a weekly basis. Like, you're looking for ceiling, and I don't think Higgins provides that. And they're already an offense that runs the football a ton, and they are going by after this week, and then they're going to get Nick Chubb back, and then they're going to go right back to being the team that is just pounding the rock with Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and there's just not going to be much of a ceiling there. So if I'm going to take the guy, I want the guy that's more athletic, that can be more of a deep threat, and that is not Rashard Higgins. Because Rashard Higgins is like a very poor man's Jarvis Landry, right? Like, he may be a better suited as a slot receiver, and that is Jarvis Landry's role. So I just can't mess with it.
Yeah, I would also say on top of that, you know, I would rather have for long term. I don't think Rashard Higgins is going to be a long term option for you. I think I would rather have a Denzel Mims. Michael Pittman just got activated by the Colts. Those are 2 guys I would rather take shots on than Rashard Higgins.
Denzel Mims. I'm surprised we haven't got a Denzel Mims question, because I think Denzel Mims is in play today against Kansas City. They're going to be trailing the entire time. They're going to have to throw the ball. And Denzel Mims, Rashad Perriman is out. Jamison Crowder is out. Like, they have nobody to throw the ball to. Denzel Mims can end up, he already saw like 8 targets last week. He could see 15 targets today. Like, I'm surprised nobody's talking about Denzel Mims. And it's in a good spot. Like, here in Kansas City right now, it's sunny. I think they're expecting like 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. Nothing to really be concerned about. Nothing sustained. Like, I'm surprised nobody's talking about wanting to really play Denzel Mims. Like, Denzel Mims, I would rather play over a lot of these guys people have asked about, just in a clear-cut, better situation. Do I love the matchup? Not necessarily, but the Chiefs have been known to get beat deep. Denzel Mims is a super athletic wide receiver, back healthy here, so I like Denzel Mims a lot, and I definitely agree. I would much rather have him than Rashard Higgins. So, Noel, if Rashard Higgins or if Denzel Mims is available, add him and drop Higgins. Ayuk or Jefferson? I think we've already answered this from other people, but Ayuk.
Yep.
Big trust. Aaron Jones and DJ Chark for Alvin Kamara. I have Jamal Williams. Yeah, I would probably make that move if you're getting Alvin Kamara, because I think 1-for-1, I would probably still lean Alvin Kamara over Aaron Jones, and then getting DJ Chark in the mix. Oh, he has to give up, and it doesn't really sway me one way or the other. Whether you're getting him, whether you're giving him, I don't think it really is that big of a deal either way. Yeah,
it's close. I think it's who do you trust more? It's going to be Kamara, especially if we're talking about Jones. I think you made a good point that if they have that Thursday night game, if they hold Jones out another week, they've already had their bye. Have Saints had their bye? Saints have had their bye as well, I think. So, yeah, that's potential another game missed for Aaron Jones. I will take Kamara.
Yeah, they had their bye a couple weeks ago, remember? Because we thought that Michael Thomas would probably likely return after their bye, and he didn't, because then he got hurt right after the bye. So, yes, they've already had their bye. Where's that? Oh. Julian, am I crazy for to pivot from A-Rob to Geo, full PPR, flex? When will cause more running despite Bengals O-line? I think it is, because, one, it's not a good matchup. Or it's not, well, never,
it's not a good matchup.
Yeah.
It's not a good matchup for either, to be honest. In talking about further the matchup, Gio without his entire offensive line is just a bad matchup versus anybody. I think if we're talking full PPR, target-wise, reception-wise, A-Rob is most likely going to out-target Gio to begin with. And then if you're worried about the win, again, we said earlier that, at least I said, I don't think A-Rob is the down the field type of guy where you're worried about a lot of his passes. They're going to be short. The A-Dot's going to be a little bit lower, where I don't think the wind's going to affect him like it would a down the field type of wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah. It's A-Rob for me. Galladay, Fulgham, or here we go. Higgins. That's slot. It's 100% Jaden Galladay for me.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Galladay is a top 5 option for me. We haven't talked about Matt Stafford or this Lions offense other than Swift, really. But, I really think we've been waiting. When's Matt Stafford going to get back to how he was the first 8 weeks of last year? And I definitely think it's this game. Indy's actually number 1 against opposing quarterbacks. They played really well. But you brought it up earlier. What's the context of who they've faced? And Indy's faced Minshew, Cousins, Flacco, Foles, Mayfield, and Burrow. Stafford will be his best quarterback that they've faced yet. Galladay is an absolute smash, top 5 wide receiver for me.
Yes, agreed. And I think people are lower on Matt Stafford than they should be this week as well, just because of that. People see. So what happens is for a lot of people too, and it happens among everything. It happens whether it's daily or whether it's season league. They see that little first next to the guy's name in the red, and they're like, "Oh my god, that's a terrible matchup." And I get it; it can play with your mind, but I totally agree. I think that the Lions. I think this game has potential to be a shootout today. So, it's 100% Galladay. I love Kenny Galladay this week, and then Emery, Fant, or Goddard. It's Goddard for me.
Yep.
Noah Fant looked really banged up last week against the Chiefs. I'm surprised he's even playing this week. I thought Albert O was going to be a better play because I thought that Fant was going to miss, but Fant is going to play. But yeah, it's Goddard for me.
Yep.
Flex, Jonnu, Justin Jefferson, Higgins, or Goddard. I'm assuming you must have either Kelsey or Kittle because that's not the Jonnu is I love Jonnu this week. I have him as a top 4 tight end this week. They're going against Cincinnati. Cincinnati has been terrible against the tight end. I think that you see him run a lot of short intermediate routes, hit him. So it is really tough for me not to play Jonnu. He gets a ton of targets inside the red zone as well. So I would want to know, Big T, who the hell you're starting at tight end. It better be either Kelsey or Kittle because that's about maybe the list. Maybe Mark Andrews before I would consider not playing Jonnu. But with that being said, and I love Goddard as well. You're killing it at tight end. Maybe look to trade one of them.
Yep, completely agree. Jonnu.
Yeah. So this was the question about dropping one of the 3 options. My other option would be Jefferson and Godwin. Yeah, that is a hell of a bench. You have done well between the line sports. I would look to trade. This is a good time to package some of this depth that you have to maybe acquire. If you're a little bit less, whether it be at running back or wide receiver, whatever you need to do, I think this would be a good option to be able to, improve another area of your team because this team is stacked.
Yeah, I think it's maybe good sell highs for DeAndre Swift and Chase Edmonds. If he has CMC coming back, I don't know what the rest of his running back room looks like, but Chase Edmonds, eventually Drake will come back, and I don't think it'll be just the Chase Edmonds show. If he plays well, I think he will be the 1A there. But I think now is probably if he plays well, he has a bye this week. If he plays well next week, it might be an opportunity to sell him. And maybe bring in something else. Maybe do a 2-for-1, bring in something else.
All right. We got a couple minutes left here, so let's fly through the ones we got left. Also for receivers, Fulgham, Boyd, Justin Jefferson, Higgins, pick 2. For me, this is Tyler Boyd. And I'm going to go Justin Jefferson.
I'll go Boyd and Fulgham.
Let's see. For cash games, would you stack the Raiders with weather? Absolutely not, especially not in cash. If you wanted to get wild in a GPP or whatever, fine, but not in cash. Hell no. I don't want any part of the Raiders in this matchup, actually, outside of Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs is a good play, but past that, I can't do it. Well, Alito, Gio, or Cooper at flex. This is the bane of my existence because I don't want to play really either of them, but I would go Gio here.
Yeah, I think Gio's going to have some type of points. Cooper, we could see anything.
Yeah, Andrew, Jamal Williams, or Madison for Green Bay. GPP DraftKings. Well, one, price differences are oh no, I guess they're not. They're both one's 6,100, the other is 6K. Forgot about that. They priced them up. It's Jamal Williams, and it's not even close. Madison. So Dalvin Cook is back. I do have some concern. I was kind of thinking about that with Dalvin Cook, and it's supposed to be a really cold game. You know, I could see a scenario where it's possible that, being that this game is outdoors and cold, where if he were to tighten up or whatever with this groin injury that he's coming off of, that maybe that Dalvin Cook gets limited. But regardless of that, I'm playing Jamal Williams in GPP on DraftKings. Also, I will just throw this out there. Darrell Henderson is a fantastic play on DraftKings this week because he is going to carry no ownership, and it's a great matchup for him. And he's a couple $100 cheaper than what Jamal Williams is. So, Andrew, I don't know if you have, but be sure to check out our DFS DJ Nation pod. I told everybody, if you're playing DraftKings, if you've never played DFS and want to get into it, you know, throw in 5, 10, 15, $20, get into some of the quarter jukebox, the dollar contest, and have some fun with it. DFS is one of my, if not my favorite way to play fantasy sports. I love the weekly puzzle of trying to figure it out. And we have the DFS DJ Nation pod. We go live every Thursday night. And we also, you know, you can find it on all your podcasting platforms as well. It's a lot of fun. And I highly recommend it, even for season-long players, to listen to, you know, a DFS pod. So Rams or Colts defense, I need a home run.
Got to go Rams then. When they're able to get turnovers, they're able to get sacks. I think you need to go the Rams there.
Yeah. How do you feel about Jonathan Taylor this week? Love Jonathan Taylor this week. Great matchup against Detroit. I think this could be his true breakout game.
Yep.
Pick 3 to start: Robinson, Woods, Ayuk, Galladay. Galladay 100% lock for me. I'm assuming that's Allen Robinson, so then I'm going Allen Robinson, and then between Woods and Ayuk, and I would go Ayuk.
Yeah, as the Robert Woods guy here, I'll probably sit Robert Woods, surprisingly. I will do the same with you, Galladay, Ayuk, and then Robinson for me.
Okay. All right. Well, we made it. It is 11:30. We have 30 minutes to lock. I have DFS lineups to build, and I think we've got through all the questions. So I really appreciate everybody rocking with us again today. We will be going live again tonight to talk about some of the waiver stuff ahead of, with me and Cody should be back tonight doing that. So that should be a lot of fun. And then we will be, you know, doing our normal week on Tuesday night. We'll be doing our buy sell. Wednesday we'll be going live again. Last week we went live for 3 fucking hours. 3 hours until midnight my time, 1 a.m. his time. We're answering every single question that comes in. We did not give up. We sat there for 3 hours answering questions. It was a great time. I was a little bit tired the next day, but it was worth it. I think we're probably the only ones on here that you will find that will sit here and answer every one of your questions, that will be live for 3 hours. So anyways, I appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up. It always helps us with, you know, growing the channel, and kind of and that's a way to give back to us as we are trying to win you that chip. So have a great week 8, and we will see you all tonight for another for more goodness. So have a great week, and we will see you. And if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comments in any of our videos heading up. If there's something crazy that happens, you know, in the 3 o'clock games, if you have any questions, we will answer it there. So have a great night. Peace.